Hello, and welcome to Revero's Success Stories podcast. I'm host and coach Amanda Lea, and I'm so happy to introduce our guest today. I look forward to discussing your diet success story with you, Coach Elizabeth.
Hey, hi, how are you?
Hi, so good to meet you. So let's jump right in. Can you start out sharing with us about your diet and your health before your current way of eating?
Sure. Well, before I started with Carnivore, I tried so many other different ways of eating and diets. I was vegetarian. That lasted about 6 months before I became severely anemic, unfortunately. So I had to quit that. I tried like detox diets and all these other things, and they just didn't seem to work long term. At first, maybe you get a little bit of a pickup, and then in no time, you're just back to being tired and sluggish. And I used to suffer a lot from chronic fatigue. It was always an issue for me. I feel like I would want to sleep, but I couldn't sleep. And then I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be exhausted the whole day. So that's another thing that I know for me, health-wise, has changed quite a bit. But other diets that I tried, yeah, I know in 2017 I did try keto, and that was really helpful, actually. But in the long term, I think there was just too much to do, too many things to prepare. Then you kind of start sneaking other things like keto desserts because you think that they're okay. So health-wise, I did improve a little bit, but just not as much as right now. So I came from, yeah, being well overweight. I could barely breathe properly. My asthma was giving me issues. I have eczema as well. And then my biggest thing was IBS. So, it would come and go, and I'd always try to figure out how to fix things. So, yeah, so I came from a lot of health issues. And just, yeah, I think I tried pretty much everything on this planet to try to resolve some of these issues.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hear that. Yeah, IBS, hey, and they were probably pushing the fiber at you, telling you, fiber up.
Yeah. Yes, I was basically told lose weight and eat healthy and have fiber. But like we have very different concepts of what healthy is, right? So I thought healthy meant fruits, veg, keeping your proteins low and low fat. That was my idea of what healthy was, because that's really the narrative that's pushed quite a bit. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's even out there right now in the standard American as well, right? I mean, that's what standard is. Like, if you're healthy, you
Yeah.
eat fruits and vegetables and keep it low fat. That's great.
That's,
And you did
yeah.
keto. So you had already some exposure to a fat way of eating, I suppose. So how did you come to carnivory or to an animal-based way of eating?
Yeah. You know, I remember we had our lockdowns last year, April. And I remember trying keto in 2017, and things were improving so much. And come the lockdown, I guess I was just looking now for a different solution, something to help me, something that's easy to follow, something that's, yeah, basically not complicated. So I started looking around for different ways of eating, and I already knew what I had already tried. So I landed on a few people's pages on YouTube, and I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. Did a lot of research, because I'm one of those people who likes to research before I jump in, because I like to know what I'm doing. But basically, I did a lot of research, and then, followed some of the doctors that do follow carnivore, some of the people who are doing the diet themselves. So I was like, okay, well, let me just try it and see what happens. So that was it. The rest was basically history, because we are lucky, because where I live, we have more cows than people. So let's start there.
That's great.
Yeah. And then I have a lady who I know who's got a farm nearby. So getting any kind of meat or animal produce was easy for me. So it was basically just to get started. So I started basically towards the end of May. And I found myself, I didn't know about all the things that will happen during your transition period, your adaptation phase. So I kept like starting and then stopping because I'm like, oh, I have to go to work. I can't feel like this, but then start again. And then, so I did go on and off. But in October last year, I was like, that's it. We're just going to get it done, get through these symptoms, like, and see what happens on the other side. And I'm really glad that I did. Yeah, I'm glad I stuck to it.
That's amazing. Do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about the symptoms you did face?
Yeah. So some days it would be dizziness and lightheadedness, and I just found that I could fix that with salt, a little bit of salt water. Other days it was fatigue, and I found that when I ate more, then I would be fine, especially eating more fats. So I went from having like a tablespoon of butter to now just like chewing off from the brick. So yeah, so I do that now.
That's great.
Yeah. So I just found that I wasn't having enough calories when I'd feel tired. So I'd up the calories and automatically start feeling better again in a few days. I did get headaches. Oh my goodness, I was on the toilet for a while there for a few days because, at first you get the diarrhea. Well, for me, that's what happened. But I did fix that. Like, I'm just really glad that I went through a lot of the carnivore pages because then it helped to get all that information. So I just basically fixed that by taking the hydrochloric, the HCl with pepsin tablets, and that fixed it immediately. So I was taking those for a while. What else did I get? I did get a little bit of swelling. At first, I gained weight at first. When I really stuck to it, I gained weight at first. It was about 2 kilos up. But after about 3 or 4 months, like things just started like going down. Like I stopped being, I don't know, it's almost like the water is underneath your skin. You like feel fleshy almost. It's really weird. But yeah, all that came down. My weight started dropping. It was really nice because it wasn't a sudden plunge. It's just a nice, slow, steady, consistent weight loss as the months go by. So I prefer that because I feel like when I lose too much weight, it's not sustainable for me. So it's perfect, actually. And I did also have cystic acne for a short time, but then that resolved itself. Now my skin, I'm just like,
that's so awesome. Well, we want to hear all about more of the benefits of this way of eating, but first, can you tell us a bit about what do you eat? Apart from all the amazing fresh from the farm cow and beef that you have, what does your diet look like?
That's the funny thing is, even though we're such a beef dominant country, I do stick to mostly lamb, goats. I found out that my body loves duck eggs over chicken eggs. So I get those all fresh. I do marrow, I do organ meats, I do still have beef because I love a fried steak. So I do still do beef, but like that is it's rare for me to do beef. Also in my family, we like to go hunting once a year. So we definitely have like a large deep freezer just full of different types of meat as well. So thank goodness, because yeah, it would be a different story if I didn't have that. But I'm
kind of curious. I hate to interrupt, but I am really kind of curious. What kind of things do you get to hunt and have in your freezer right now?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. We have springbok, we have hemsbok, we have eland as well. So those are usually the main 3 you're allowed to hunt here in Botswana. So yeah, and I mean, like I said, like we go once a year because the fridge will be completely full and then we don't really need to. So I'll just supplement with other meats because I'm like, I want a different taste instead of the game meat.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's great. And the meats you're supplementing with, all being ruminant, it sounds amazing. I mean, goat and lamb are delicious. And a lot of people find that duck eggs are much more preferable for them
Yeah.
as well than chicken.
Yeah.
Do you find
Yeah.
yourself eating chicken or any birds or fish?
So at first I did. I do still have them, but it's also quite rare. I do stick to the red meat a lot of the time. So I do have chicken once in a while. Like if I have a craving, I feel like maybe my body wants something from it. So it's nice now because now I can actually go with my cravings, right? So a lot of the time I am doing the meat that we hunt for and lamb at the moment. And then I'll have cravings for liver and then I'll go for it. I'll have cravings for chicken, then I'll go for it. So now I trust my body more. I like it because before it was like, oh, eat this because you crave it, eat that because you crave it, but it was like all the wrong things. And I think once you like remove sugar from your body, you start craving more healthy food. So, or in this case, different varieties of meat. So yeah, because recently I'm craving duck, so I'm like, okay, that'll be on the menu soon. Yeah, yeah,
That's
but I
so
do
true.
try to stick to the ruminant animals. Yeah, yeah,
That's great. And I love that you're talking about how you just kind of intuitively go with what it is what you want now. So you mentioned eating organs, like if you're craving liver, and you also mentioned using salt back when you were dealing with the adjustment into carnivory. But do you take any other supplements, or do you find yourself needing to take a certain amount of organ, or is there any ritual around that, or is it just what feels like what you need when you need it?
yeah. At the moment, it's basically just what I need. So even my salt intake, some days I need more salt, other days I'm like, my taste buds are like, no, not today. So I'm like, okay, no salt today. So I always try to taste the food first real quick and just see salt wise what I need. And then when it comes to supplements, the only one I've ever needed to take was iodine, but I find myself not having to take it anymore. So I feel like my body will let me know when I need to return back to it. But other than that, it's been all right. Because even things like fat and protein, I have some fat days where I'm just like, I just want fat, and then I'll stop eating when I start getting nauseous. And then I have
Good
protein
sign.
days, and I know, okay, back to the protein. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's great. That's a good sign. How about other things? Like, are there any plant foods that you still include, like whether it's spices or coffee
Yeah.
or chocolate? I don't know. Any plant foods in your diet?
So I do still do coffee. And then I quit it for a while. And the funny thing is I felt great when I got off coffee. Then the other thing was because I had too many days of assignments in the evening. So I was waking up groggy and I was like, oh, coffee. So I went back to it, admittedly. But hey, it's how it goes.
That is
And
okay. Yeah, coffee's okay. What do you put in your coffee,
so
though, for curious minds?
a little bit of cream, just a little
Okay.
bit of cream. That's it. Sometimes I put in butter if I'm having those days that I really want the fat. So I'll just put in like pure butter and throw it in the blender. It's so nice.
So
So
good.
that would pretty
Yes.
much be yeah. And then as for any vegetables, I do sometimes have anything things that are pickled because for some reason I've always had an affinity for pickled foods, sauerkraut or like kimchi, things like that. So from time to time, I will have them, but it's rare now. Yeah, yeah,
That makes sense. And those are so much better for our gut, being that they've already been broken down for us. So that's great. That's amazing.
yeah.
So tell us more about what life's been like for you since this new way of eating.
It's been interesting because I think people don't understand about the way of eating. So a lot of the time you have to do it at home, or sometimes if you go to a restaurant and you're just like, I want the biggest steak you have, and then it's like, do you want any sides? No. I'm good. And can you make it like medium rare or rare? So like, and then people will stare at you like, what is happening? What is going on? Um, but health wise, and yeah, so I eat at home now. I barely eat it out at restaurants, which is nice. You save extra money, so that's always good. And then as for everything else, honestly, I think my biggest difficulty was the fact that people just don't understand, right? And then every other time I've been good. My health has been great. My eczema is gone. I'm able to exercise a little bit, and I'm not even exercising. I'm not doing anything crazy when it comes to exercise. We have a hill nearby. I go up. It takes like 18 minutes to get to the top, and you come down. You know, it's not that crazy. We do that about 3 times a week. And then yeah, my eczema has cleared up. I haven't needed to use my asthma spray since Feb. So now I keep like checking to see if things have expired. There's medication I haven't had to use either, especially with the irritable bowel syndrome. Like it came to the point where I started having to use suppositories at least 2 or 3 times in a month because I could just feel it coming, the pain and everything. And then that was it. So now I haven't had to, I think I only had one attack this whole year, and that's been it. Yeah. So, which is huge because it used to be, twice a month. So 2 or 3 times a month. And I just couldn't figure out what it was because you start getting afraid of food because you try something and it can trigger it. Your stress can trigger it. There's so many other different factors. But no, my skin cleared on my face as well. I barely get acne now. The one weird thing though is my smell changed.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I noticed when I'm on sugar or if I eat any sugar, I start to really have strong body odor. But when I'm not and I'm just eating meat, like barely anything. Like I start getting
Wow.
not having to use deodorant and things like that, which is also quite nice.
You're not
And I
alone in that. I've heard that before. I love hearing that.
yeah, so that's something that I found quite pleasant. Also, I'm using far less moisturizer now, so I'm saving money on that too. I find that my digestion is just so much better. My moods are more stable as well, which is nice. I get less anxiety. It's not a constant worrying of anxiety all day, every day. Now it's very manageable. So I'm looking forward to continuing and seeing like more improvement and other things that will happen. And yeah, because I feel like it only gets better from here.
It only can. That sounds amazing. What success. Wow. First of all, just letting go of medication. I mean, that's huge. Never mind everything on top of that. Wow. I did forget to ask you. So how many meals a day do you find yourself eating now?
So yeah, and that was quite interesting because at first I was eating all the time. I was just
Yeah,
eating all
totally.
the time.
Good meat.
And then
Yeah.
yeah, and then over some time I just found that I just wasn't hungry. So now I eat 2 meals a day standard. I usually have my first meal around 12, 1 o'clock is when I'm hungry. And then my last meal can be maybe like 6. But then there are also some days where I'm just one meal. But I found that I can't do one meal too often because I'm a sports massage therapist by profession.
Got
So
it.
I find with all that hard work during the day and everything, I need to have enough calories. So if I do OMADs for too long, I just my energy does tank. So I have to keep up with the amount of food that I need. So I do 2 med most of the time. Yeah. So that's usually my sweet spot.
That's
Yeah.
great. Wow. Well, that's good. It sounds like you are in a sweet spot, but with improvement. So that's amazing that like your moods, your the way that you feel about even your skin, never mind the breakouts or the eczema, which I can imagine having a break from that is huge. But on top
Huge.
of that, you said your skin must be softer because you're not using as much cream. So that's really nice. And your
Yeah.
smells, I mean, everything. Wow. Elizabeth,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. Good
No,
for
it's
you.
been incredible. It's been incredible, I have to say. And it's just one of those things where at first you're skeptical, you panic because you're, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, but the guidelines, the food guidelines, they tell you not to eat like this, and they tell you to eat this, and then you try it, and then you're just like, I feel so much better though, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I'm
So
definitely not going back.
yeah, right. Okay, so I am curious. Well, how long has it been, and what is it? Okay, so if you're not going back, you've dealt with the relationships. So is that something in your life? Do relationships come into being eating in this way? Has that played a role at all for you?
You mean my relationships with people or relationships
Yeah.
with food?
I mean, oh,
Oh,
well, it's a good point. Since we have talked about the food, what I mean is with people, because we often
okay.
find that not only do people think we're crazy, just trying to manage, but sometimes the people that directly live with us or in our home, it causes problems, or sometimes we're influencing everybody to get healthier. So I'd love to hear how the impact has been for you in your life with
Yes,
people.
at first it was a little difficult because, yeah, everyone around me was just like, what are you doing? That's crazy. That's a lot of fat. Why are you scooping fat on your plate? What's going on? Where are your vegetables? It was a million and one questions. But I mean, over time, they started to see how my mood started getting better, and I'm just receiving less pushback. So even my friends now, they're more curious because they're seeing my results and they're like, okay, but like, tell us about this. Like, why are you just eating meat? Like, what's going on? What is this about? So I tell them it's a health protocol. It's basically the easiest way to tell them, and to let them know how it has healed me, and that if they ever want to try it, then they always can. So, I'm just trying to be the best example around of the people around me, especially because I know so many people who are, diabetic. They're having issues with their weight and maintenance. They're having so many health issues. I used to have to take allergy pills. Now I don't have to, and it's small things. It's those small things that add to the quality of your life, because you're not like, oh shoot, I forgot to take my allergy pill. Now I'm going to be suffering the whole day. So it's just such a huge positive move that I'm so glad that I did it, and I'm hoping just to continue to influence people around me. I know that they are also nervous trying to jump into it, but eventually they'll get over it. I think.
That's so
Yeah.
true. That's such a good way of putting it. All of those small things, they add up big time. And I love that you said it's a health protocol, because that's all it
Yeah.
is, really. I mean, there are
Yeah.
benefits. It ends up having you look and feel amazing, but your health gets on track.
Yeah.
And suddenly
Yeah.
you can depend on yourself and your body functioning the way it needs to
That's right.
without all of the additional things that we think are supposed to help us, which really end up
Yeah.
hurting us. So that's huge. And that rolls really well into another question, because you're a coach here at Revero. So you are helping people already. So we'd love to hear a little bit about your coaching philosophy.
Okay. Well, I like to start with the fact that there's no such thing as perfection, because I think too many people focus on, I'll feel this way when, I'll start this when, it's never just, I'm going to start now. I'll start it imperfectly. I'll see where it takes me. I'll see how I feel. I'll call in with the coach and say, this is how I feel. What's going on? Did you feel things like this? Because what I really do like is that, in order to be a coach, you have to have the experience, right? Because then you're able to actually impart that information and tell them, oh no, I know how you feel. It's not one of those things we're just saying it, we really know. So basically I try to tell them, look, what is best is to progress, right? Whether it's, even if it's slow progress, whether we're losing, 20 kilograms or 10 kilograms in a year, that's fine, but it's a goal, right? And not to beat yourself up if you don't get there, but it's to keep trying. And I like to motivate people a lot. So I know I like to, because what I find is if I have a reward system, that also works really well. So every time you do meet a short goal, because it's to take your big goal and Like, make it smaller, make it more realistic, make it a little less scary, So even if we're going to do 1 kilogram this month, let's work on that, because it's better than having people frustrated. Because a lot of people already, by the time they come here, they've tried so many diets. They've tried so many other ways of eating. They lost some weight, or maybe they didn't lose some weight. They were frustrated. So now it's just to reprogram all of that and let them understand that it's okay. Take your time. It's not going to be perfect all the time. Here are the strategies to try to get you back into this way of eating as quickly as possible if you fall off. So things like taking photos of yourself, the start, and then having something to compare to once a month, just to see your progress. I don't like the scale because between water fluctuations in the body and fat and all that, sometimes I feel like you can get a lot of different numbers. So I don't actually like the scale. I prefer measurements as well. I feel like that is better, because when I started gaining weight, what was interesting was on the scale, it would show something, one number, like me going up at some point, but then I was able to fit in my jeans better. I didn't have the muffin top anymore. So it's like I don't know whether I had more muscle, but I did feel firmer, especially once the inflammation started going down. So there's that. So I prefer using measuring tape or your favorite pair of jeans, or a pair of jeans that you really want to get into, and just have it there and try it out once a month. Don't frustrate yourself trying to do it every week. You're not going to get like any huge changes in a week. I would say once a month, maybe even once every 2 months. Even if it means putting a little money aside as a reward, so that by the time you reach your goal, you can go and now get an entire new wardrobe, thinking about things like that. So I like goal-based and motivation, and to maybe even to write down something that you really want to change in your health. Something to keep pushing you, because sometimes it's not going to be a physical image. Sometimes it's going to be something like getting off a medication, or, just having an easier time with food. So, and not having such a stressful relationship with it. So even those things, yeah, so it just depends on the person I'm talking to, but I like to feel people out and see what motivates them and just try to give them the support.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's it. Well, there's no question. It sounds like you have a lot to impart on your clients. That's amazing. I mean, who wouldn't want to be encouraged to take it easy and not be perfect, and to reward yourself, and to look for goals like health creation before the number on the scale. And you're so right. I mean, a lot of us know body composition changes so much with this way of eating. And that's a bigger goal for a lot of us than the actual number. It's about how our body looks and feels for us and functions. So it's amazing. Yeah. No, well, if there's anything else I feel like I've learned so much. I've loved hearing your stories. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
No, just dive in, try it out. Perfection, like I said, no, progress over perfection any day. That's pretty much it. Yeah, I love that. So I'd love for everyone to get to a good, healthy place if they can, and this is one way to do it. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing your diet success story with us today, Elizabeth. And everybody for listening, don't forget to come find Coach Elizabeth or myself, or any information you want on an animal-based way of eating at Revero.com. And feel fab.
Join Revero.health for a 30-day free trial to get access to live Q&A with VIP guests, social community meetings, member discounts, low-carb healthcare providers list, forum, workouts, monthly challenges, early access to podcasts, recipes, carnivore diet guide, fasting guide, shred guide, and much more.